Hello, welcome to Look East.
In the programme tonight, new plans to transform RAF Mildenhall. After the Americans leave, the government announces that thousands of homes will be built here.
Another row in the NHS, this time over the 111 service. A Norfolk MP says a critical report must be published.
It smacks of a cover-up and closing of ranks. It puts staff into an impossible position.
The Indian restaurants facing a recruitment crisis. We're live at the Ashiana in Colchester.
And hunting for treasure, why more is found in East Anglia than anywhere else in the country.
First tonight, a year after the Americans announced they were pulling out of RAF Mildenhall, the government reveals its new master plan for the site.
RAF Mildenhall has been worth millions of pounds to the local economy as an airbase. Local people have been worried about what will happen after the Americans pull out sometime before 2022. Today, an answer. The Ministry of Defence will sell it to another part of the government, the Homes and Communities Agency, which means this 12,000-acre site will be turned over to housing. Kevin Birch is in Mildenhall now. Kevin.
Yes, Stuart, tonight it feels like we're on the verge of a new chapter in the history of this place, and that's been driven by two things: the need for the military to save money on both sides of the Atlantic. And if you go back to the 1950s, this place was about the Cold War, about the perceived threat from the Soviet Union and about bombers. But of course, the way the military, the American military operates is changing, and that means the role of this place is changing too.
It was on the 8th of January last year that the American Air Force confirmed that it would be leaving Mildenhall. And today in the Commons, just over a year to the day since that news broke, came confirmation that the site will be sold off.
As part of the government's prosperity agenda, the MOD is committed to releasing land for 55,000 housing units in this Parliament.
The great thing is that we've now got 4 years at least to work on what we should do with the land, with the local community, with local businesses, with the council, to make sure that we make the best possible use of it.
The stark fact is that the Americans need to save millions from their defence budget. So too does the MOD, believing that the sale of Mildenhall and 11 other sites in the country will generate £500 million and potentially land on which 15,000 new homes can be built. The government clearly has a target to hit, but the leader of the local council says the future of the base is about much more than just new homes.
I think we've got to have a balanced approach to that. I'm sure some of the base would be housing if there's jobs created within there for the ones that we're losing. And then we, like I say, we're this close to Cambridge. We're working with Cambridge partners anyway, so we see this as a massive opportunity for Mildenhall and the whole surrounding area.
In the town of Mildenhall today, reaction to the news from Tony Wilson. He runs a business selling e-cigarettes and says about 60% of his customers are American.
The whole town was built up around the base, and we rely on the Americans to support us, you know, and without them, we don't know what's going to happen.
And among other local people, a feeling that flying should remain part of the future.
Fourth London Airport.
Is that a serious?
Serious, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Airport, I think Richard Branson should have it.
Not far from London, you can get down on the A11, so why not?
Earlier this month, it seemed that a decision on what happens to the base could be months away, but it's come much quicker than they thought, and now the debate can get down to the nitty-gritty.
Well, it's worth remembering this place is reckoned to be worth about £700 million every year to the regional economy. It is a massive challenge, but that's why the local planners have already secured government funding to bring in the expertise, and they're convinced they can get the balance right. From Mildenhall, back to you in the studio.
Kevin, thank you very much. As Kevin said, Mildenhall isn't the only base which will be used for housing. 11 other bases across the country will also be sold, including RAF Barnham in Suffolk and Molesworth and Alconbury in Cambridgeshire. Overall, the Ministry of Defence wants to reduce the size of its estate by 30%. It could mean 15,000 new homes across the UK. Earlier, housing expert Roger Humber told me why he thinks the Mildenhall site is so important.
Well, Cambridge, of course, is a massively important national asset as well as a regional asset. Huge growth going on there. In the very long term, we will continue to need more houses even than those that have been planned in Cambridge. So this really presents a long-term opportunity to ensure that there will be sufficient housing in and around Cambridge, and also being that much further from Cambridge, there's an opportunity, I think, to build cheaper houses than the ones that you're seeing very much closer to Cambridge.
But this is not an immediate answer, is it?
No. Obviously, we still don't know when the Americans are going to pull out of Mildenhall, but then once, if you like, the start gun is fired, then you've got planning, you've got the sale, you've got to put consortia together, you've got massive funding problems to fund the infrastructure, and that will easily take 4 or 5 years, and there's probably going to have to be a big public sector, private sector partnership because the sheer scale of it is so great. So 2020, if the Americans were to leave tomorrow, but they're not going to, 2023, 4, 5 to start if they stay until 2020.
And it's a very expensive, so who's going to pay for it?
Well, it can't be done entirely private sector funded because apart from anything else, the banks won't fund a lot of the people that need to be involved. I think there will have to be some very innovative partnership, joint venture partnering between government and the private sector. The government has set up the Homes and Communities Agency with new funding and capacity, and I think they will have to come in and do a lot of sort of upfront funding of infrastructure and also letting some developers have land for nothing to start with and then claw the costs back at the end. So the taxpayer will get the money back and will make a profit, but that might not be until 2030.
And can our roads cope?
Well, I think there are infrastructure issues here. I mean, there's the A14, that's the main route into Cambridge. Already we've got, very significant problems there. There is a projected upgrade of the A14, but I think we'll have to look at that upgrade in conjunction with this if the roads aren't going to become overcrowded.
Mr. Humber, thank you very much.
More than half the children with mental health problems in Essex may not be getting the specialist care they need. A new report has found that 10,000 children could be affected. But from this year, mental health services will get more money.
Thousands of children live without mental health treatment in Essex. In his teens, Andrew Gordon was one of them for a while.
I would wander around the streets of Basildon in hope that maybe someone, a group, would injure me, would beat me up, would stab me or whatever. Eventually the police came and they took me to hospital.
Andrew had fallen through the cracks of the system.
I had good professionals. I had professionals that really cared about me, working with me. But when I went from child services to adult services, there was nothing.
That is one of the things the new children's mental health system in Essex aims to prevent: young adults relapsing. But it's also toughening up intervention. That's what Fitness in Mind has been doing in Brentwood for those aged 16 and upwards for the past few years, improving well-being.
It's nice to sort of get people who might not necessarily leave the house due to depression or other mental health issues to then come socialising, come out of their shell.
I think you can vent a few things without even realising it. You definitely sort of take some power out on the bags and stuff.
Combating mental health is challenging, and intervention and prevention programmes like this for young people help. With the extra £3 million coming from government to Essex, it's hoped that no young person will fall through the net. There's going to be a big emphasis on eating disorders, where in the south of the county there is a lack of support. There will be more staff, including 5 junior doctors specialising in child mental health.
The 25% increase in funding that we're announcing today is an absolute gift to children and young people in the county, and we'll see a tangible increase in the quality and availability of services and support that they're going to receive.
I think it's a step in the right direction. I think this was needed a long time ago. I think if this happened sooner, it would have saved a lot more young people going through an incredible amount of pain.
Andrew wants young people to come out of the shadows and open up about their problems. Care officials say they are now in a better position to help. Simon Dedman, BBC Look East, Essex.
The MP and former Health Minister Norman Lamb has told Look East that a report which highlights shortcomings in the out-of-hours GP service and which was linked to the BBC must be published as soon as possible. The report was written by the Norwich Clinical Commissioning Group about the out-of-hours service provider IC24.
IC24 runs the NHS 111 non-emergency phone service plus out-of-hours GP cover. The report follows unannounced visits in November. It found a shortage of doctors, with some patients waiting more than 12 hours for out-of-hours care. This was having a direct impact on quality and clinical safety of the service. The report showed some call handlers were asked to alter their notes and remove details of patients who hadn't been seen. The author of the report said she couldn't be sure the out-of-hours service was safe. IC24 has said that it's recruiting more GPs and has added more staff to support the front line.
Well, earlier this afternoon, Norman Lamb gave me his reaction to what the inspectors found.
Shock, I guess, like everyone else. And the fact that a report on issues about patient safety and risks to patient safety is kept secret, I find completely outrageous. I've written this afternoon to the Norwich Clinical Commissioning Group to ask them to publish this report by the end of tomorrow. I just think that issues of this sort, which relate to patient care in our county of Norfolk, must be in the public domain.
The chief executive of IC24 says theirs is an open organisation. Would you agree with her?
Well, they completely contradict themselves. How can they be an open organisation and yet refuse to disclose a report into failings in patient safety? And it's extraordinary. We, in the last Parliament, legislated for something called duty of candour to ensure that the NHS discloses to patients and their families when mistakes happened which might have an impact on the care and safety of a patient. Now, to go for a sort of philosophy of complete openness like that and then for the NHS to behave in this way, I find quite incredible.
Staff were asked to alter or not record accurately their calls that they had. That must concern all of us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it smacks of a cover-up and closing of ranks. It puts staff into an impossible position. And it really raises questions for me about whether this organisation is fit to provide this sort of service within the NHS. And unless we can be reassured very quickly that there will be no further examples of this sort and that the service is safe and of good quality, then I think their continued stewardship of this service is seriously in doubt.
There is a good chance that somebody tonight will be thinking of phoning 111. What would you say to them?
Well, of course they must do so. And if it's a real emergency, then of course they should ring 999. But for those people that you're talking about, they need reassurance. They need that report in the public domain, together with an improvement plan which can give us all confidence that this service will work properly for people when they need it.
Mr. Lamb, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the Clinical Commissioning Group has just given us a statement which says it would be unfair to publish the document because it was an internal discussion paper which, if placed in the public domain, would be potentially misleading. Managers there are now trying to contact Mr. Lamb to discuss his concerns.
A 25-year-old man has appeared in court after 6 police cars and the Force helicopter followed a tractor in what they called a low-speed pursuit across 2 counties. Nathan Lovell, who lives in Wisbech, is charged with a number of crimes, including aggravated vehicle taking.
Still to come tonight, Dan will be here with the weather for the week ahead.
And a crisis cooking in the curry industry. Why strict immigration laws are making it harder to hire workers from overseas.
Anybody who's ever wandered into a field with a metal detector under their arms will have dreamed of finding something special. It might turn out to be an old hammer, but it might be some ancient gold and silver.
Now research by the BBC has revealed that the 3 top counties in the country for treasure are Norfolk, Essex and Suffolk. But that means that the region is also a magnet for so-called nighthawks, the people who don't declare the hidden gems they find.
In this remote churchyard on the Essex coast, 200 small holes recently appeared overnight.
made not by rabbits, but by thieves armed with metal detectors. This was once a Roman fort.
If we hadn't had it reported, we wouldn't have even known the crime had occurred.
Armed with new surveillance equipment, new legal powers, Andy Long targets so-called nighthawks who plunder from heritage sites like this one.
They do know the coins or artefacts they're finding, they're very knowledgeable like that, but they've got a complete disregard for the law in that respect. They see their rights to go anywhere they want to, find whatever they want and not report it and sell it for their own gain.
Andy then spots a man with a detector and takes him aside.
I swear I haven't got faith.
After a quick check, it's established he's innocent, detecting legally on a nearby beach. The East has a rich heritage, rich pickings, the Mildenhall treasure, the world-famous Hoxton hoard, and more recently the Dallinghoo hoard in Suffolk. Nationally, Norfolk tops the table for declared treasure with around 116 finds a year. Essex came second with 71 discoveries and Suffolk third, recording 65. Metal detecting accounts for almost 92% of all finds. Like almost all detectorists, Tom hunts for treasure legally. A year ago, he discovered this Anglo-Saxon pendant in a field in South Norfolk. He wants the law tightened to deter the nighthawks.
Clearly, the risk-reward is enough that they're going out and doing it. You know, you need these people. You know, there needs to be enough of a sentence on them when they're caught that it sort of makes people think twice about doing it.
Of course, when treasure is taken, so is its history.
Where was it found? In what context? And what could it have told us about a historical site like this? And that loss can never be recovered.
Everything in the historic environment is a representation of our shared heritage. It's important to us all, and we move forward by looking at and appreciating our past.
And so the call on us, the public, to be vigilant, to watch and report those who plunder the region's rich heritage beneath our feet. Alex Dunlop, BBC Look East.
And on Inside Out tonight, you can see some of the extraordinary finds discovered in the east of England and find out why this region is the best in the country for finding hidden treasures. That's on BBC One tonight at 7:30.
Now, for more than 50 years, we have been a nation of curry lovers. Now it seems the future of many local curry houses is under threat. The problem? A shortage of staff.
They're blaming strict immigration laws, which they claim is making it harder for them to hire workers from overseas. Lee Milner is at a curry house in Colchester now. Lee.
Well, Susie, we're currently cooking on gas in this kitchen in Colchester. And let me just have a look over Shuman's shoulder. It seems as though he's cooking a taste sensation. Shuman, what are you cooking there?
It's chicken tikka buna.
Oh, it's my favourite, to be honest. And Saiful over here is also cooking a chicken tikka masala, and it smells absolutely fabulous. But they are doing quite well to say that they already have 3 vacancies to fill, including the role of head chef. And that seems to be the norm at curry houses in this area. So much so that local restaurant owners are calling it a staffing crisis. Why? Well, there seems to be plenty of reasons why. Since 2009, the number of successful visas given to Bangladeshis has dropped by almost a third. Bad news for curry lovers when 85% of curry houses and takeaways in the UK are owned by people from Bangladesh. But it's about to get a whole lot harder for them in April when rules for migrants change. From then on, if a restaurant owner wants to recruit a chef from outside the EU, they will have to pay them a minimum salary of just under £30,000 a year. That's £5,000 more than the average salary in the industry. The Home Office says it wants to nurture more homegrown talent and recruit resident workers to meet staffing needs. But in 2012, a £1.7 million curry college scheme to train British chefs collapsed within a year after failing to attract enough applicants. It's now being predicted 2 restaurants a week in the UK are closing as a result. Well, this family restaurant has been going for over 30 years, and Mushraf Hussain is the manager. Mushraf, hello, good evening. Just to start with, we've been hearing there a few of the factors as to why it's making it so difficult for you to find staff. How are you finding it?
Basically what it is, the first generation of restaurateurs are leaving because obviously they're retiring, and the second generation aren't coming to the restaurant trade, they're going off to uni doing other stuff. And the government has made it in such a way that it's leaving a gap and we can't recruit anyone because it's just not possible for us to get anyone from abroad. And in this country, what can I say?
How is that affecting not only your business but local businesses here in Colchester?
Well, basically, it's hard to get chefs, and during busy times, it's just very difficult to provide service. And obviously, people are closing down.
They're closing?
Literally closing down, yes.
Wow, and how about recruiting local talent?
Recruiting local talent, it doesn't work in the sense, because obviously this is an Indian restaurant. For us to provide a full service, we need everyone, to be Indian as such. And obviously, it doesn't work if it's mixed nationalities. It just doesn't provide the full service.
Well, hopefully you'll be going on for another 30 years. Thank you ever so much. And don't worry, I'll bag you up a couple of the tikka masalas for you, Stuart and Susie.
Thank you very much, Lee. I have to say it has made me rather hungry, that.
Rather, you've been going on about it ever since you knew we were doing it. Sport now, it's an exciting week ahead for some of our teams in the FA Cup.
And possibly some exciting transfer news for Norwich fans. Here's Tom.
In fact, I have exciting news. In the last few minutes, Norwich have made one signing. They're still working on him. The Everton forward Stephen Naismith due for a medical today before finalising a transfer for around £8.5 million. But in the last few minutes, they've just brought in Swiss defender Tim Klose from Wolfsburg for a fee believed to be around €10 million. The Canaries, it seems, need their help. A 3-0 defeat at Bournemouth at the weekend, leaving them 16th in the Premier League, 4 points above the relegation zone, and Liverpool next. Now, it's a big week for three of our sides looking to make round 4 of the FA Cup. 2 are already there, Colchester and Peterborough, while MK Dons, Northampton and Ipswich face replays tomorrow. Town are at Portsmouth. Ipswich head south after a 1-1 draw with Preston. Daryl Murphy scored, and despite going unbeaten in 6, they've fallen out of the playoffs, heading to Fratton Park.
As they came here, they were different class, Portsmouth. Passed the ball really well. We were fortunate to get a draw out of it. It's different there at home. We probably, strangely enough, we're probably the underdog in the tie. That's not mind games, it's just they were great here. They should have beaten us.
And one of the tastiest third-round replays involves MK Dons and Northampton. The winner faces a home tie with Chelsea in round 4. Following a humbling 5-0 defeat last week, the Dons head into the cup game after a much-needed championship win over Reading.
They come here and beat us. It'll be an unbelievable achievement by them, and we'll foresee ourselves as being that we've let people down. So we have to go into that game and play our best, because Northampton are a good side.
On to rugby, there's another Mallander making headlines in Northampton. 19-year-old Harry did his dad and boss Jim proud for Saints last night. His late try on his European debut earned victory over Glasgow. It means Northampton still have a chance of qualifying for the quarter-finals. They must beat Scarlets on Saturday with bonus points. And finally, a huge week of bowls on the BBC with the World Indoor Championships at Potters in Norfolk. The men's pairs title was decided today. There's finals throughout the week. Susie.
Tom, thank you very much.
Now, a famous sporting face popped into Peterborough today to lend her support to the Thorpe Hall Hospice.
Olympic badminton silver medalist Gail Ems opened a new gym designed to help those recover from serious brain injuries. This report is from James Burridge.
Show them what we've got.
It's been, quite a journey for me, really, because I had my brain tumour in 2005, so I've been coming a long time.
Rosie Tompkins battling back on her bike and loving every second.
I feel wonderful when I leave here. And it just makes me really happy.
Rosie is one of dozens recovering here at the Thorpe Hall Hospice, which now boasts a new gym to help with both mental and physical recovery. And today, Olympic silver medalist Gail Ems, a long-term supporter, was here to champion the cause.
But you're doing amazing. I mean, half an hour. I can't do half an hour, so you're already beating me. It's just so inspiring, so encouraging, and really, really motivating. And we mustn't forget that every day there is this personal goal and a personal achievement, a little tiny step for these people, and that is fantastic.
That's it. Nice and controlled for me. Good.
Paul Scottley was a keen golfer and worked at the local brickyard in Peterborough until he suffered a serious fall. He's now channeling all his energies here.
It gets me out of mischief. Just rehabilitation, basically. It can be quite hard at times.
You sometimes just want to tell the trainer to just go away and leave you alone.
Oh, I don't, because he's a big bloke.
It gives me great pleasure to declare this rehab gym open.
A ribbon for rehabilitation and a gym worth its weight in gold. James Burridge, BBC Look East, Peterborough.
Right, time to get the weather, and it's been quite chilly, hasn't it?
It's been a cold weekend. We had some snow, ice and frost, and more cold weather really in the week ahead as well. No real sign of any major mild weather coming until quite late on in the week actually. Cold air is dense. It's sitting right across Europe and across the eastern side of the UK underneath this area of high pressure. So it's going to take quite some effort really to get the mild air in off the Atlantic. It's not actually that far away. It's across southwest England at the moment. But for the time being, with high pressure to the east, low pressure to the southwest, we've got this southeasterly flow bringing that dry continental air in. And as we go into tomorrow, we've got to keep an eye on this little weather front. It'll bring just a thicker band of cloud and maybe 1 or 2 spots of rain. Already, though, out there, temperatures are sub-zero, -1 in quite a number of locations, and they're only going to go one way through the course of tonight. So with relatively clear skies, a lot of high-level cloud, but most places staying dry, light winds as well, and temperatures really plummeting by tomorrow morning. It could be as low as -4, -5, locally down to -7, which would make it the coldest night since January last year. So it's certainly a cold, frosty start to Tuesday, but on the flip side of the coin, a lot of sunshine actually to start the day. But here comes that weather front, thickening the cloud across Norfolk, North Cambridgeshire. That'll sink southwards through the day. So by the afternoon, the best of the sunshine across Essex and Hertfordshire, and a cold day, 3 or 4 degrees at best. High pressure continues to dominate through tomorrow night, but the flow coming in off the North Sea will bring more moisture, so we could see more in the way of freezing fog around on Wednesday morning. Again, another cold start with some frost in places, but not as cold because there'll be more cloud around. And hopefully through the day that freezing fog should thin and lift. There will be left over a lot of cloud, but thinning and breaking, some brighter spells coming through. And again, it's going to feel cold, 3, 4, possibly 5 if we're lucky. And then for Thursday, high pressure still dominating the scene. The flow coming back in off the continent, so the drier air coming back into play for Thursday. Another frosty start, but there should be quite a bit of sunshine, I think, by the afternoon. But again, temperatures around 5, maybe 6 degrees, so just starting to nudge up a little bit through the end of the week. And then high pressure by the end of the week starts to clear off to the east. Here comes weather fronts off the Atlantic, but some uncertainty about how quickly. So I think on Friday, probably a dry morning, then some rain coming in from the west. And as we look ahead to the weekend, it turns milder, some brightness, but also the risk of some patchy rain at times. There's your weather. Susie.
Dan, thank you very
much. Is that good news or bad? I'm not sure, really.
Mixed, I think.
Wet but warmer. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.